Good morning. Good morning. Now, before we get to this subject matter, I had a flight this week. And I lost the fight for a good reason, as you always should do when you start with the Bible. You always lose the battle, and then humbly grab yourself back up and lose again. Because I'm hard-headed. But I was trying to bring to you an understanding of what is sin. And you have to beat yourself with this idea. Well, people already know what sin is. No, they don't. They do not know what sin is. Think about it. Think about it. The last time somebody said something was sin. Probably somebody who murdered somebody. Oh, that's a simple guy. We think of sin as an extreme, not the little things. We're the only one who puts sins in a category. Think about it, right? Oh, you don't want to do that. Yeah, what'd you say? That's a little white lie. Oh, right? Think about it. The amount of time you lie to other people for no reason. Because it's just who you are. It's in you. And the sad thing about that is we don't even count that as a big sin. God don't care whether it's big or small. We're the only one who puts it in category. You see, all sin does is separate you from God. Think about that. The further away from God you go, the bigger mess you become. Yeah, that works. And so, as I'm going through this, I thought, I'm going to create a sermon about sin, and I'm going to deliver it in one sitting, standing. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's not going to work. Because there's so many ways that we mess it up. Or we just don't listen to it. So I thought, let's just do it one at a time. Right? So when we're talking about the doctrinal foundation of God, we've been studying living by God's foundation of truth, or foundation of instruction. We've been talking about the foundation of unity, answering the question, why Jesus? And if you've been paying attention, there's a pattern we're following here. Right? We started by saying, why the Bible? Now we're saying, why Jesus? Well, guess what we're going to end with? God. Yeah, that works. Without those three, you're in a mess. Right? And so we said, something can be true, even if what? And a lie is still a lie, even if what? Up the lie. You don't have to. Funny story is like the guy came from work, tired, and the phone rang, and the kid picked up the phone and goes, "Can I speak to your dad?" And goes, and the kid goes, "He said he's not here." That's hilarious. So when answering the question why Jesus, you gotta be truthful and say he has all authority. He has all created authority. Last week we found out the reason why Jesus, because he was born to save us from sin. I wasn't born to save you from sin. I'm a sinner. He's born short of the glory of God. But Christ was born to save you from sin. So the question becomes now, what is sin? One of my favorite analogy of what sin is in archery, when you hit a shot and you miss target, that's what it's called. Sin. So when we miss the mark of God, what are we doing? So our aim this morning is to come to the understanding that we need to understand what sin is and the danger that comes with it so that we are able to flee from it and continue to live as God needs us to live. There's a part here, you need to learn to flee from sin. But we're so hard-headed, we want to dip our toe in it. Let me just dip my toe in it a little bit. Don't want to hurt the rest of me. As we continue our quest to answer the question why Jesus, we say that he was born to save us from sin. We need to have a firm and clear understanding of what sin is. So let's begin with what is sin and the actual definition of sin. This is where the fighting started. What is sin? Sin is disobedience. Ever saw that? Sin is disobedience. In Romans 8, verse 6 through 8, he says, for the mind set on flesh is what? Yes. But the mind set on the spirit is what? Take that one in. If you want death, walk away from what? Come on now. Don't make me be like Tim. I'll get behind you. If you want death, walk away from what? No, walk away from the spirit. Set your mind on the flesh. If you want death, do everything that your heart desire, even though your heart is not centered on God. That'll get you where? Death. Because the mind set on the flesh means I do what I want to do. But the mind set on the spirit is what? Life and what? So you don't just have life, you also have what? So if you want peace, set your mind on what? The spirit. Because the mind set on the flesh is hostile towards God. Let that sink in. But it does not subject itself to the law of God. But it is not even able to do so. Why? Because it's too busy fighting God. And those who are in the flesh cannot please God. Why were you created? To please God. So now you're going against your purpose. That's always fun. The mind set on the flesh is death, destruction, unfulfillment, a lack of purpose, no true peace, just an imitation. Get that? Mind set on the flesh. How do we know this? Because I've seen a billionaire kill himself. A billionaire kill himself. I've seen somebody who thought everybody, oh, that guy has it all. Why? Because he took everything in the world and tried to fill a void. I don't know about you, but I like to play these little puzzles. And the puzzle all got their pieces and they all go where they go. You can't jam a piece where it don't belong. That was ridiculous. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't show that to anybody when you're done. Right? And so we have a hole in us. That void can only be filled by God. But when we try to fill with everything else, what happens? Mess. And so the mind set on the flesh is death, destruction, unfulfillment, a lack of purpose. No true peace, just an imitation. Now, the mind set on the spirit is what? Life. Not just life, an abundance of life, full of life, with a purpose. And you get peace, the kind of peace that transcends all comprehension. The kind of peace that allows you to struggle and still understand that good days are ahead. The kind of peace that lets you struggle and know that this too shall pass. Why? God said it. The kind of peace that comes from above, that guides your heart, mind, and soul. Yeah, you talk good was good for your body. Now it's the word of God. It is good for your body, mind, and soul. The mindset on the flesh is hostility towards God. Do you even know what that means? To be hostile against God. To be hostile against God means to be unfriendly towards Him, antagonistic towards Him, opposed against Him. unsympathetic against them, an enemy against them. Because I am unfriendly, antagonistic, opposed, unsympathetic, an enemy against God, I will lead me to subject ourselves not to his law. Because all of these things, I do not want his law. Then I become a rebel in God's cause. Why? Because I want to do what I want to do. And then I tell people, well, why would a good God then send me to help? I never take responsibility for my actions. This is the reason why it is so important that we understand what sin is. Our failure to understand this leaves us trying to please us instead of our Creator or our Maker. Hostile behavior is a mixture of anger and disgust, which is associated with an emotion such as what? Resentment, indignation, contempt, jealousy, envy, strife, malice. Those are all the things from God. Those are from a place of hate. For man. No one person here was born with hate in their heart. You were born perfect. You were born perfect. So you learn to hate. For man, not from God. For man. Think about the times when you have willfully sinned. It was fuel or birth from one of these emotions we just talked about. Think about it. The last time you sinned willfully, so you probably have a resentment because somebody got something you didn't get. Probably out of envy, out of jealousy, strife, or simply out of malice. Why you did it? This is why when we are disobedient against God, our Maker, our Creator, it is to sin willfully against Him. When we are disobedient, we cannot please God, which goes against our purpose for being created in His image and His likeness. Let's talk about the consequence of disobeying the Lord. Please turn with me to 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 to 10. I love this part because this is the part where, I don't know, somewhere down the line, we think that, I guess because we listen to the wrong people and we don't study, we think that God is just going to wipe it all away because He loves us. And I've heard idiots say it before. God loves me so much, He broke the love. God loves me, and so He broke the love. Yeah, no. That's not how it works. I don't think you know what love is. In 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4, it says, for if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but He cast them into hell and committed them to pits of darkness reserved for what? And He did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a preacher of righteousness, with 7 others, when He brought a flood upon the world of ungodly. Pause for a minute and think. Did you hear what Peter said about God and sin, especially about angels in the ancient world? He did not spare the angels when they sinned. He cast them into where? He cast them into where? And committed them to pits of darkness reserved for what? Was hell created for you? No. What's it created for? Those who are disobedient. You don't want to go to hell? Don't be disobedient. Right? If He did not spare angels and send them to hell, He's not going to spare you when you sin. Oh, you know, it's just loving God. Okay. she missed the second part. He did not spare the ancient world. And if he condemned the city of Sodom and Gomorrah to destruction by reducing them to ashes, having made them an example to those who will live ungodly lives thereafter. And if you rescue righteous Lot, oppressed by the sensual conduct of unprincipled men, for by what he saw and heard, that righteous men, while living among them, felt his righteous soul tormented day after day by their lawless deeds. Then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from temptation, and to keep the unrighteous under punishment for the day of judgment, and especially those who indulge in the flesh, in its corrupt desire and despise authority. I'm not sure if you heard that. First, he being God did not spare the angels, his messengers, when they disobeyed. Now, we find out he did not spare the ancient world either, whether it be the whole world, or in this case, Sodom and Gomorrah, whether it be by fire and brimstone or by flood. God does not like disobedience. Because it leads to what? Which is a separation from him and is the wages of sin. Here's the amazing thing we forget in these stories. Lot was a light that shined in the darkness, and the darkness did not recognize it. You know, so many times we like to complain about how there's no example for us to follow. Lot was the example in darkness. We cannot allow darkness to dictate how we move, especially as children of God. Lot and his family did not give into the sinful nature of their surroundings. Lot even offered up his daughters as a sacrifice for the mob that wanted to sleep with these guests. Lot continued to shine in darkness, even though darkness was everywhere around him. He didn't make excuses. Well, everyone was doing it, so think of the amount of time we make excuses because there's no example. Only because we refuse to shine and be the example. Right? Think of the moment in time. He went with the group knowing they were wrong. Think by the time you chose to do what everyone else was doing, because we didn't want to be the outcast. Everybody's doing it. Think of the time you refuse to let your light shine in the midst of darkness because you want to be like everybody else. Right? I mean, everybody. Your mom used to ask you, everybody was jumping up a cliff with you, and the answer was, of course. As long as I'm not the first one to off the cliff. Got a nice cushion landing on that. Isaiah warned against such a way of thinking in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 18 and 22. With the focus on verse 20. So just listen to him. Isaiah will tell us, he said, woe to those who drag iniquity with the cords of the falsehood and sins as if with cart ropes. Who says, let me speak speed. Let him hasten his work, that we may see it. And let the purpose of the Holy One of Israel draw near and come to pass, that we may know it. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who substitute darkness for light and light for darkness, who substitute bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own stupid eyes. Sorry. And clever in their own dumb sight. Sorry. Aren't we so clever? We know more than the one who created us. And so we move by our own thoughts and feelings. The Bible says there's a way that seems right in the eyes of man, but the end result is what? Death. Woe to those who are heroes in drinking wine and valiant men in mixing strong drinks, who justify the wicked for a bribe and take away the rights of the ones who are in rights. Have you ever take a look at Congress? Why I don't like politics. Tell people, well, you must elect Obama. I don't like Obama. Never did. But don't be surprised. I didn't like Clinton either. Don't like Bush. Certainly don't like Trump. Don't even like Biden. Why? Did you just read what I just said? That's what they do. They call right wrong and wrong right. They bribe and get their way. But you guess what? We put them there. We put them there, right? Why did we put them there? Woe to you who are wise in their own eyes, clever in their own sight. Said, you know, you should read 1 Corinthians. Oh, that guy's cool. What does it know? And when he gets in there, what he does. And then, look, the funny thing to me is how we try to defend people who are in the wrong. Woe to you who sees wrong and call it right. I don't think we understand the damage we cause, and then when we open our mouth to teach people about God. You just told me the wrong was right. Now you're going to tell me about God. Go ahead. I'm going to ignore you. And then you're going to get an attitude. Well, you don't want God. No, sir, I don't want you. Nothing to do with God. Woe to you. It was the Lord's brother, James, who would echo the same thing in the New Testament. In James chapter 4, verse 14. What he said? Come on, together. What he say? What happened? On the count of 3. Therefore, to the one who knows right and things to do and does not do it, to him it is what? Sin. Woe to you who knows right from wrong, but does not do the right, but does the wrong. He says that is sin. And that is the same thing he's saying. Woe to you who knows right. You see right, but you call it wrong. But you see the wrong and call it right. He says, woe to you. For that is sin. How is it sin? Disobedience. Think of the time, anytime you defended people, going to work. That's my family. That's my God. It's also diminishing your value. I don't know, because I overthink a lot of things. A lot of things. I'm thinking like steps ahead. If I say this, will I be able to say that? If I do this, will that allow me to say this? And all of it has to connect with what God needs me to do. I see wrong, I speak on wrong, and I call it wrong. It's okay. And I don't like it. You're not supposed to. Right? Stand on it. I've been places where I was sick in my stomach. at leadership who weren't leaders. I've been places where brothers weren't brothers, where sisters weren't sisters. I've been places where my character was questioned over and over again. And all I wanted to do was punch somebody in the face. But I couldn't. Because if I did, I'll be known as the angry black man. Right? And so what I do, I shut up, put my head down, and I went to work. Oh, I work. I work until I couldn't hear the noises anymore. And then I still continue to work. Why? Because they don't get to define who I am. Amen. It's God. And I don't get to make an excuse to be disobedient just because they say something. See, we're given ample chance all the time. Just because there is no example does not mean we be like the people. Look at Lot in the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. Look at him. What's your excuse? Oh, America is going to the wasteland. Yeah, what are you doing about it? I'm going to the wasteland too. Point fingers. Tim said, when you point a finger, 1, 2, 3, 54 is pointing back at you. It's not right. That's not how we point, right, John? Point like this. You're the problem, sir. See, everything's in that direction. But we have to be mindful of this. To be disobedient, no matter on what level, is sin against God. One of the toughest verses I ever struggled with was Romans 13. I've struggled with Romans 13. That's what I did. You struggle with it too. Because I want to do is protest and punch people in the face. But you can't. Right? You say amen. But you can't. It is not my place to judge them. It is my place to be the example, even if they don't see it. And sometimes we have to be the example where there is none. You got to be the light that is shining in darkness. And darkness will not recognize it, but that does not mean you don't still shine. Always. Don't be the Debbie Downer. Hey guys, want to do some outreach? Oh man, outreach? Oh. They're going to do it anyway. Why? God told us to. Right? If you do you love me? I do. He said, feed my sheep. He said, I will feed my sheep. While I'm arguing with Bill, I'm not feeding the sheep. You know the funny thing that always scares me too is that God is going to come in a way where he's not going to find me feeding his sheep, but yelling at somebody in a debate somewhere. Yeah, right? You've done that before where you start talking about somebody that's standing right behind you. But if I'm feeding his sheep, I have nothing to worry about, right? I'm not even being disobedient. I'm doing what he asked me to do. Feed my sheep. That's what he said. You can't be disobedient when I'm feeding his sheep. Because disobedient is sin. Next week, we're going to talk about what missing the mark actually means. When we don't do what he asked us to do, we miss the mark. Oh yeah, that's true. You know, point at the target verse. You know, the opposite direction. He's definitely missing the mark on purpose. So we do that. Give it. We do that because you don't want to do it, so you do it half. You do it begrudgingly. But I try every morning. You turn into Jonah. Repent or die. Before we get to our song of invitation, I want to sing 852. Because so many times we don't realize what we're doing to be disobedient. Right? 8:52. When the trumpet of the Lord shall sound, and time shall be no more, and the morning breaks eternal bright and clear. When the singers shall gather over on the other shore, and the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. Oh, when the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is fallen yonder. When the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. On that bright and cloudless morning, when the dead in Christ shall rise, and the glory of his resurrection share. When the chosen ones shall gather to their home beyond the sky, and the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. Oh, when the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is fallen yonder. When the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. Let us labor for the Master from the golden setting sun. Let us talk of all his wondrous love and care. Then when all the fight is over and the work on earth is done, and the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. I'll be there. When the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is fallen yonder. When the roll is fallen yonder, I'll be there. You want to miss that roll call? Right? That's what happens when you're disobedient. When the roll is called yonder, I won't be there. Because I'll be disobedient. Yeah, that's it. It's scary. You don't want to be disobedient. Right? You want to hear those phrases. Job well done, my good and faithful servant. And that's the view we have today. Right? You're here today, and you have not been baptized. You do have a nice baptism coming up really soon, right after service. I'm not going to tell you who it is, Liz, but she's going to get baptized. She's going to start being obedient to God. And she's going to be ready for that roll call. She's going to hear her name. But only the name he has for her, she will hear it when that roll is called of yonder. She will be there if she is obedient. Right? And one way that we are obedient is by following his instructions. Be baptized. And then teach them everything they know. There's no other way. Right? Submit yourself to his will. We do. And then we are baptized. That's how it works. That's the beauty of knowing who God is. Being obedient to his will. Right? We gotta love that. There is no special prayer. There's nothing else beyond that. Simply put, be obedient. And she's going to be obedient to this. Yeah. Water's a little bit cold. It's okay. It's all for the better. Right? So we're thankful for that. Not them baptized will actually come down as we see and sing out some of the invitation, but also if you're in need of prayer because of things you're going through, there's a heartache and struggles and trials. We are here. We are here for you. Because when you're hurt, we're hurt. When you're lost, we're lost. We all want to be on there, on that day. We all want to be up there, hearing our name being shouted. Don't you? When the roll is called up yonder, don't you want to be there with your brothers and sisters? You don't want to be there by yourself. That's selfish. Right? You want to be there with a group of people you don't even know, sharing out the good news. So if you're struggling, going through anything, we're also going to call you down as we stand to sing our song. God be